as a challenge, you ask a question about something the person was talking. Nothing prepared, you ask a question like that. That's how you train to listen and not to have your questions ready. So you have to come up with a question that you didn't have ready because you don't know what the person is going to talk about. That's the scary thing with asking.
Today's successful revenue leaders once started their careers just like you and I. They faced the challenges that their careers brought to them, they rose to the occasion, and became the leaders that we admire today. Join me as we explore the skills and stories that make a great leader with a pinch of vulnerability. Hello and welcome to Sales Therapy. I'm your host, Alper Yurder. Grab a chair. This is your exclusive invitation to the therapy room, as leaders are going to be sharing their career-defining moments, their secret tips and tricks in their arsenal towards success. And I promise we'll always end on a positive note. Today in the therapy chair, we have Patrick Trümpi, Chief Sales Officer at Unique. Patrick is a seasoned sales leader with a knack of turning startups into success stories. He's been doing it for over and over a few times. Who knows? Maybe in the future he does some other things around that too. We'll talk about his success, the joy, the pain, and the journey. Welcome to Sales Therapy. How are you feeling today, Patrick?
Great. Thanks, Alper, for the invitation. Well done pronouncing my name.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one for people outside Switzerland, even outside the Swiss-German part of Switzerland. So
Generally, in the first section of Sales Therapy, because it's therapy, I like to talk about childhood and how the growing up years, the growing experience shapes the person that we are. And now that you have one of your own, does that bring do you have like flashbacks, memories of your own childhood, of being a kid yourself? That's a different way of me transitioning into that section than usual.
I like the topic. I like the topic, especially in connection to sales. I do have, flashbacks. I'm thinking a lot in general about childhood. I think, well, I'm really interested in psychology. In my personal, when you do personal development, when you think a lot about what you are, who you are today,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
your weaknesses are, where you don't like yourself,
yeah.
basically, what you struggle with,
Awareness.
behaviors that you have yourself. Yeah, exactly. If you think about that a lot, I think also you will have to at some point go back to your childhood and think about why I'm like this. That's one way to cope with it, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just one. I not to that's the deterministic way, but I think it's still important to think about it. Because a lot of us have some traumas from childhood, struggled with certain things, and the same with me. I know certain things I'm not very amazed about what happened in
Mm-hmm.
childhood. So I have
Mm-hmm.
some tougher memories, I'd
Mm-hmm.
say, that also explain some part of my personality today. Actually, one thing that I always find interesting is I was always thinking, where is ambition coming from? Like being
Yeah.
very overly ambitious, wanting
Yeah.
to achieve a lot.
Achieve, do more.
And for
Yeah.
me, I realized, okay, it's a substitute for, or in translation, it's I want to be loved by others. And
Yeah.
if I achieve a goals, I'm being more loved. And I realized
Somebody
in my
has been to
childhood,
therapy. I love that. Somebody has been to therapy.
I did. I did too go, but not enough actually. I did
Yeah.
stop rather quickly again. But I read so many books about therapy.
Okay.
It's that's probably where it's coming from.
Okay. Okay.
So like if you have parents who who don't show love, like just unconditionally, just
Yeah.
like that in any moment,
Yeah.
but only when you were the best at the
Yeah.
sports contest.
Yeah.
That's where it could come from. So
Yeah.
you get love when you realize you get love when you achieve something, or when you
Yeah.
have yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I was thinking about, definitely, where I
It's
think about
there's
my
definitely
past.
an interplay of, and I mean it's such a common trait. It's funny, like we all are very individual and like very unique, but at the same time, like we're all human and some things work for all of us like in the same ways. And I love that you mentioned like the relationship between like success and love and value. Like how do you perceive your self value? You, endless achieving, endless success. I have to do more, 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 and there's definitely an interplay between how you were shown unconditional love or not. And it's not always
Yeah.
because you're like, it's not that your parents didn't love you. It's just they didn't know how to show that love, or their way of showing love was that, like, my parents' way of showing me love. Now, of course, at the age of 38, after lots of therapy, I realized they were cooking me every food that they wanted as a child. They were buying me everything that they didn't have as a child, but I was looking for some other
Mm,
recognition,
mm, mhm,
so
mhm, mhm,
this resonates a lot, what you're saying with me.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. That's a very important one in this. I think it's very important not to blame your parents because
Yeah.
of anything that happened, because we are all not perfect. I'll make my mistakes with Nathan,
Oh yeah.
the little
You
boy.
will.
Yeah, I will. And certain things that we do now, the generation in 30 years will think, "Wow, were
Yeah.
you damn stupid?" And that's what we think now.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly. Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Showing love is not something that our parents and grandparents'
Yeah.
generation were really
Okay.
good at.
So I'm not gonna boil
I
the
feel like.
ocean, but we already get the sense that, the self value and how you perceived love, that had an impact on the person that you are today, because you wanted to achieve more, you wanted to be successful. Obviously, intellectual capacity, this that plays a role, but that drive, that motivation, there's a bit of that. That brings me to the next section, which is success is not achieved easily. So you, of course, you want to be successful, you want to be a leader. Did you always want to be a leader? Did you always have a passion for, being a leader, being a big guy in a business, running a team, achieving great things, millions of dollars? How did that work for you?
Ooh, good question. I think I didn't think of. I mean, leader. Yes, probably because yeah, as I just said, I do have this hidden ambition, kind of, to
Mm,
need to achieve things from long time ago. So automatically, leadership is the path through that. That's the only path that I would see back then. The solopreneurship, like Justin Welsh, didn't exist back then, even though I see that as a path as well. But
or
if I
a,
probably was thinking
or
of it
a,
like as something that has to happen. I didn't necessarily. Yeah, I probably thought always it's something that I have to do and I will
Yeah.
do.
I was gonna say, or a very ridiculously high earning individual contributor, or now there's this fractional something as well. Like, the world is changing and the understanding of leadership also changes.
Yeah.
But when I think of myself, for example, my journey, I did a sabbatical 3 years ago, and I said, I'm never gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm just very happy being a very high paid sales leader.
hmm
And then
hmm
3 years later, things happen, and look at me, like, I'm now doing this journey. So some things we plan, some things we don't.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's also something I realized only when I started and got employed. After a certain time, I also realized also my personality. I don't think I'm the ideal employee, kind of the person to just hire and not own parts of the company. I need my independence.
Yeah.
I need my own
Mm,
way of thinking. I'm very much you give me a goal and I'll go for it with
yeah.
whatever resources I have, without much of like, okay, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? So I just go for it. A quite
Mm,
independent
mm,
person, in that way. And also there, I realized, hey, yeah, I also want to start my own thing. I knew I gonna start my own thing at some point.
mm,
How that's gonna be, you never know, right? You join an early stage startup as a co-founder or as a late co-founder, or you really start like you from scratch, whatever it's going to be. But I know that that's what I want and have to do. I already did it once with Larry, the company we sold half a year
mhm,
ago that I worked before Unique. So we sold that successfully. That was the first kind of nice, good story. And that Unique, I didn't have yeah, these ESOP programs. I'm not a fan of these.
mhm,
So yeah,
mm,
I don't feel that ownership really.
yeah,
So I know, look, that I realized also at some point. I didn't know that entrepreneurship and so on. I didn't think about that when I was studying. Went through
mm.
the normal kind of university thing, and then
Did you have
that's not
a?
the first thing that comes to mind.
Did, was your family a bit of a middle class family? Like, mine was a middle class family, and like entrepreneurship and all that we had in the family, and there were also bankruptcies. So for me, it's always been a risky, scary thing. So now doing this for me in this time of my life, to be honest, if I didn't go through 3-4 years of therapy and figure out things about myself, I would probably still not be doing this because it's not my comfort zone really to be
Interesting.
an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. But you had your contacts then, you through like successes or
Oh yeah.
even
Oh yeah, yeah.
or not.
For me,
Okay.
stars were
Yeah.
aligned, but like I mean, it was a lot of stars aligned. So sometimes I bring people into the show, and like actually yesterday I was interviewing somebody for a role, for a founding AE role, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to be a founder," and I'm like, "Okay," and he's only like 4 years into his career and etc. Like I didn't have that because I never thought I could have that. Like there were lots of risks,
Hmm.
money, financial risk. I'm a Turkish citizen without a UK citizenship, so if I lose my job, I get kicked out of the country, so I can't be a founder. This that. Now at the age of 38, we have a great idea. My co-founders are my friends for 15 years. This that like stars aligned so much, pushed me, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it because if not
Yeah.
now, when? But I didn't have that. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to be an entrepreneur thing.
No, I haven't. I didn't have it either. But for me, it was more like because it was never. I didn't think about, and I didn't have any connection with it. My parents, and that I think is good. My parents never gave me the feeling of Patrick, you have to do this, you have to do
Mm,
this. Not even they didn't say you have to go to university.
mm,
Actually, quite the opposite. Because not even the opposite. They didn't say, yeah, we want you to work from when you're 16. But I have three sisters. My family is lower middle class. I would say my parents were struggling with money in certain stages of our lives. When I started university, Switzerland university is for free, but
yeah.
still, I went to far away. One of my other sisters studied as well. The other two, luckily, were working. My parents could not have afforded four kids to go to university, so I was one of the lucky ones, or the others couldn't go either. It wasn't a topic for them, but that was good because it cost you still 2,000 per month or something like that for
Oh
a
yeah.
kid to go
Wow.
to university, apartment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and or train tickets and so on. So it is still costly, and my parents could not have afforded this.
Yeah.
But my parents would also not give, they wouldn't tell me what they want for me. They had no vision of me, which is good. Parents, I feel like shouldn't have.
Mm.
What we hear a lot in the US, parents want kids to become doctors or lawyers or anything stupid. They shouldn't decide what their kids want to become. That's up to their kids, not to them, what they should become. And that's a big thing, I think. But I don't, luckily, and I'm really grateful for that, my parents didn't do that. But I also had no connection to entrepreneurship. I didn't know what it is,
Mm.
until I was
Um,
20,
to be
21.
honest, with entrepreneurship, one thing I realize is, especially in our industries like sales, SaaS, technology, this, that, obviously there's going to be the odd guy who's like the, underdog who made it big, blah. But honestly, you need a certain level of safety. You need a certain network. To be honest, being an entrepreneur is a very privileged place in our industry. I don't think it's for everyone and anyone. I only get to do it at the age of 38 after checking all the other boxes and I have a partner who can take care of things and this that. I don't think it's very difficult for people to be an entrepreneur. Anyway, that
Absolutely.
that wasn't the whole
Crazy,
point.
crazy
I,
difficult.
Crazy difficult. I'm gonna move on to another topic, which is about success again. And for example, I've known you for just over a year or so from the LinkedIn world that I have been involved in the last 2-3 years very much. And I'm like, okay, this guy, everything he writes resonates. Like he talks about his leadership journey, he talks about specific things with clients. And I look at it, wow, this guy's really cool, smart, and humble, and this, that. A, I want to write like him. B, he seems to be finding his way around tech, B2B SaaS, sales world in a good way. So, my question to you after that long segue, give us the last 10 years of your career, like the short little, summary. And where do you feel like you are today in your life? Are you in a place where you want to be in terms of your career?
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, I'm very happy where I am, honestly, because I found some, and I see that a lot. I answer that question first before we go through
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
story,
course.
but I found something that I feel I'm competent now after 10 years. I do. When I started writing on LinkedIn 2.5 years ago, that's where I started to feel really comfortable about it,
Mm,
and I learned even faster on the way because of writing. So I feel comfortable. I like the job. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the upside of it. I enjoy how the transferability to private life, being able to ask good questions. I feel like it's the best skill you can learn in life. Honestly, still feel like it's the best skill you can learn in life. It made
asking
me
good questions.
much happier. Yeah.
How
Also,
did you
your
learn that?
wife. Year 4 or 5 of my sales career, we had a sales trainer team that trained the team that I was in back then, and they really taught us. I was so impressed the questions they came up,
Mm,
honestly, like the questions they'd ask the prospects, and I didn't dare to ask these kind of questions.
mm,
I also thought, how do you come up with these questions? I mean, why do you exactly know what to ask? It's
mm,
really hard. It's much easier to pitch. I know what to talk about, and that's what I did. So my journey, actually, that's my journey. First for 3 years, I was, hey, we had a slides, but not on PC. We printed the slides and we went to C-level meetings like that. We just talked about our tech, didn't ask a single question,
mm,
tried to push things forwards. We still sold some stuff like this, but the potential would have been so much bigger. I didn't have anyone who understood SaaS. Back then it was 2014 in Switzerland, not many SaaS companies here. And the first three
you you
years
you make
were
it
a mess.
you make it sound like it was Heidi and a few goats, but yeah, I see what you mean, like 2014.
You can imagine it this way, exactly. I did a few goats and us.
But I see what you mean.
That's
It
it.
wasn't this
That's
crazy,
it.
ridiculous, overly crowded, noisy place that we live in today. Yeah,
No,
I
no,
get
no,
it.
it
Yeah.
wasn't. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it feels like that. I don't even know. Probably also we didn't really realize. Now you on LinkedIn, you feel like I know what is going on, right? You might have also that feeling in the sales tech
Yeah.
space. You know what's going
Uh,
on because
uh,
you feel like I see those people all day.
I know too much.
But yeah, but the world is actually much bigger than that, than what we see. That's usually in the bubble we are. But
True.
so yeah, those first 3 years were tough. I mean, were tough. What I did from the start, and that helped me from the beginning, is the prospecting part. I enjoyed the prospecting part. I was good at it almost from the beginning. Not necessarily cold calling, but mostly, I mean, outreach in general. Cold calling I didn't do for the first 2 years. That was one of the things that I would change again if I could, because people said Patrick doesn't work in B2B. You can only do cold calling in B2C, but B2B, forget it. And I had nobody who could tell me how to do it. And as I said, sales trainer, that we didn't have a P person who understood sales. That was the first 3-4 years, and then Max and Mike came, the sales trainers. They were awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. I learned so much. We changed the whole sales process. We did the workshops the first time. We did the discovery demo workshop and qualification and everything, like a proper sales process
Mm,
that we went through. And I saw the change. I also saw how resistant I was to that change at the beginning, but then I saw the change and what it did. I enjoyed the profession also much more. It was
mm.
so much more fun to because yeah, asking questions is so much more challenging, and it's nice that the job is challenging. That's
Yeah,
probably
asking
something.
questions is difficult, and it's not only. So I'm an ex-consultant. My career, like I was an ex-consultant, Bain, Accenture, this that. So I
Hmm.
was trained in asking questions, trained in consulting, and this that. So for me, when I had my first
Amazing.
quota carrying sales job,
Yeah.
it was still very eye opening. I had that moment with a coach who was. It was a very difficult relationship, but I learned so much from them. Guided discovery, like having the right to ask the questions. And I just talked about it like a few days ago. What's a discovery call? How do you do it? No. Like it's not like a list of 10 questions just to like throw at people. It is a guided journey. It's a conversation, but
Yeah.
it grow
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it takes time and training, and you
It
learn.
does.
Also, you build your confidence to be able to ask the questions. Do you have any like specific tips for anybody who is going through that journey, who's trying to be better at their discovery, better presence with buyers, clients? Like, what can they do?
Hey, it's a good question. What can speed up that process, right? Because we all went through the process you were just mentioning. I mean, I also, the first time I did it was we also had 10 questions, and we went through the 10 questions, and then you realized client is not very happy with this. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, they just want to get
if they
off the
didn't already
phone.
say, yeah, get off the phone, or they would say, Patrick, show me the product. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't like,
Let's
no,
move.
I'm not. So my tip is to, as soon as possible, be very aware. Ask your first question and make it a challenge for yourself not to ask a question afterwards that is unrelated to what the person said. So
Oh,
you
I love
ask a
it.
question, the
Mm.
person's talking, and you, as a challenge, you ask a question about something the person was talking. Nothing prepared, you ask a question like that. That's how you train to listen and not to have your questions ready. So you have to come up with a question that you didn't have ready because you don't know what the person is going to talk about. And that's the scary thing with asking questions. You don't
Absolutely.
know what the person is going to talk about. But
Uh,
I would do that challenge that helps you because, yeah, I see a lot of people, they don't listen
because
and then they ask their
you
question
can
and it's
always bring it back to the conversation, like, but this
always.
happens in time. Like now, for example, in front of me I have a script, I have a million questions, and I'm not asking any of them actually to you, but at some point I need to bring the question back to this. But this
At some point.
but this is great anyway, because I'm
Yeah,
taking the other things, and if there's something, I'm going to be able to bring that. But it's just a junior senior experience thing, I think. Then, and the
it is.
personality
It
shines
is.
through. As you make the mistakes, you grow from them, and then you start enjoying sales. Like sales becomes like
Yeah.
relations, you know.
It exactly. And start with it in small talk, as you just
Hmm.
said, you start easy actually.
Hmm.
So if somebody said, yeah, look, the weather is bad here, like these weird starters anyway. Maybe hopefully you have a better one, but if
Oh,
that's
it's
not,
only
then
every
you ask, hey,
conversation
okay,
in the UK we have. It's only every conversation for us, you know.
see, yeah,
Yeah,
it's very often here as well. And then you ask a follow-up question on that. You see, like, oh, okay, what would you do if it was good weather today? Did you plan anything? That's already a question based on what the person said
yeah,
about weather,
yeah,
and you can train it with this as well,
yeah.
and that will help
Yeah, I just
for
mentioned
sure.
there's a few questions that I want to go through. I mean, with you, I could probably have like a monthly pod, but some things that I think is good for our audience, so I'm gonna go on with them. What are you currently working on at the moment? Like some of the current issues, by the way. Uh, what is your current role right now for people who don't know you? What are you doing? How is your day to day? What is top of mind?
Yeah, so I'm chief sales officer at Unique. We are a 2.5-year-old startup scale up, basically. Grew quite quickly, so founded 2.5 years ago, and I joined 2.5 years ago, basically 2 months after founding, got the first client in, built a sales team of 27 people. We had to change strategy heavily from tech company as our ICP to financial services, banks and
Hmm.
insurances.
Hmm.
So medium size to enterprise sales. I had to lay off a lot of my staff, actually more than 2/3. And also in the
It
process, a few people didn't man.
If I may, it also sounds like out of
Yeah,
your echo chamber, the one you just mentioned, like the little tech world that we always talk on every day on LinkedIn. It sounds a bit like outside of
yeah.
that world, your buyers, or not.
Absolutely outside of that
Mm,
world.
mm,
Definitely.
hmm.
Yes.
Hmm. Uh,
And
yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
sorry,
my
sorry.
and, my, and then my day to day changed a bit, honestly, also because having 27 people in the team, I had 4 team leads. So basically, I was working with the team leads to mainly quickly onboard people, coaching people. I was mainly working with my team leads to get people, SDRs to quota quickly and AEs and so on. So build processes, everything. We
Hmm.
already had implemented tech. I did everything from the start, so it was quite easy to
Hmm.
do. But then we had the change, and with the change also, my role changed a bit. I went much more back to selling myself as well because I
Hmm.
also had to prove it kind
Close.
of, you change ICP, you don't have any clients and so on. So I sold heavily again. I'm still selling now. I mean, my next client is going to sign next week, so still selling, to banks like the
Good.
enterprise deals, and with my team, which is now all of them are more than 2 years in the company. So coaching is not, I'm still coaching, but not heavily anymore because everybody is on a really, really good level. And we're struggling with, well, our biggest struggle at the moment is the expansion in other countries, because our
Mm,
tech, we are 2.5 years old, moved to a different ICP 1.5 years ago. So you can imagine our tech is not a deep tech product that
mm,
is like has a huge USP
mm,
where we differentiate ourselves easily, which is fine if you work on your home market like DACH,
mm,
but going into other markets, very likely things happened already there at the same time as well. We do stuff with LLMs, OpenAI, GDP, GPT, and so on, and stuff happened there as well. And if we don't have the name and the clients, everybody knows our clients in the DACH market, but nobody knows our clients in the
mm,
UK, for
mm.
instance. In the US, no way. In Singapore, no
So
way. Nobody
how
knows
do you
any of
stand
my
out
clients.
in that environment? Like one thing that I realized as an entrepreneur and tech founder and this that actually this not I realized somebody told me, man, you can differentiate almost in nothing anymore. Like the tech can be
Yeah.
copied, the product can be copied, the features can be built, the price can be copied, but the way you sell, the way you provide a service, the way you go to market, that is something where you can bring a bit of uniqueness. I've been told. Would you
You
agree with
can.
that?
I think, yeah, you can bring uniqueness with the way you sell.
Mm,
In many ways, the way I'm thinking of when you bring uniqueness is also one thing that we have done really well is onboarding investors that have massive networks, like really massive networks. They're
mm,
very famous in the market, so they help us getting intros. And these intros are really, we've all been there. We've all worked with investors who didn't
of
give
course.
even a single intro that
Yeah.
was worth anything. But that one, that is, we push them really, really hard, and that is one thing. So we always talk to C-level in these big banks.
Mm,
That's one of the that's also a differentiator.
yeah.
If you can do that,
Of
if
course.
you can win investors who bring you in the go-to-market
Hmm.
something, that's huge. That was one of my eye openers in the last 2 years, to be honest. That's
Mm.
big.
So you,
That's
you
big.
you you
And
differentiate in the way you go to market. I mean, and it doesn't have to be a million emails to everybody. It's just a couple. Like if it's a high intent market, get the right connections in the right places. If it's a different market, go to events where you can
absolutely,
meet those people.
absolutely,
I mean,
that's
that's the
that's
beauty
one
of
thing. And I
sales. It's
think
very varied.
if you
There's no one size
differentiate,
fits all.
that's right. That's right. And I think if you going back to having a good and like well-defined ICP, the good thing about that is at some point you are going to build very specifically for that industry. That's what we are working on right now, right? Every feature that is coming out is really, really tailored and specific to the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
So at some point, we will be able. Right now, we don't have really anything that is quite specific. Okay, we
Mm.
can install it in their server sellers and whatever, but not many differentiators. But that's going to happen anyway. If you really focus on one market,
Yeah.
that's the issue. If you want to solve everything for everybody, then you never
No.
will build a feature that is or deep enough.
And I think it's even
That's one
more,
thing.
it is now more true than ever because the last 3, 4 years it was growth, growth, growth. Everybody buys every product, throw money, na na na. Now it's like go narrow, go deep. Just solve something very specific for somebody. Um, I
Absolutely.
In the last 5 minutes of our chat, what I want to do is a bit of a rapid fire because obviously you share a lot of good wisdom on LinkedIn world with people. So I'm going to ask you a few like practical tips, tools, experiences that you can share with the audience. Does that work?
Absolutely.
Okay, absolutely good. So first one is, as I say, I look up to your profile and I think what you share is it resonates so well with me, with my experience as a sales leader and my experience as a seller and all of those things. How do you? How did you come up with writing? What is your way to writing? How did you become so good at it?
No way. Good question. I mean, practice probably. I didn't do, I just started. I think the thing is just start, which is toughest thing to do
Mm,
because the first 3 months is the toughest thing. The first month, I'd say, the first 30 days, basically. The first post and the first 30 days, because first post is like whoa, weird guys starting to post on LinkedIn, back then 2.5 years ago. That, I mean,
Yeah.
now it's maybe we feel a bit more, I don't care about it at all anymore. After 30 days, that's gone, right? The fear is completely gone. You don't think, I don't even put a thought into, oh, what do people think when I post that? I mean, yeah, so that fear is gone. But then it was really difficult to come up with topics in the first 30 days. Luckily, at the same time, I started running again. So while I was running, I had all these ideas about writing because I put my thoughts to what should I write. Then you come
Mm,
up with ideas automatically. And then you just write and realize, okay, that's a weird way to start. For instance, I realized it's a dumb way to start a post about a thought. It's weird to say. It's not really. It's hard to express into words, but with a claim,
mm,
with a weird claim
mm,
that has not is not a story kind of claim. If you start with
mm.
a story claim, then it's okay. But if there are some claims like, for, do I have an example? I would probably need to go back like two and a
Mm.
half years to my posts because I had some very
I
bad
think I,
examples,
I
and then you
feel
realize what's
I feel what you mean. Story claim, by the way, it sounds very. You're translating that from German. I feel like, but I have a feeling.
yeah, probably.
I know what you mean, which is like, don't just say some BS to be just for the sake of it, but like maybe tell it from
Yeah.
your own experience, like an actual, genuine, authentic thing that makes sense to people. I guess.
That's definitely yeah,
And the
for
reason
sure.
I can say it so easily is because I feel that, and I fall into the same problem sometimes. I'm like, okay, people want to hear about this, let me write about that. But sometimes I don't come from my own story, and then it feels weird. Like then you're like trying to put some thought leadership to the world you weren't asked for, or anyway, sorry, I caught you there. Apologies.
No, 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 that's exactly right. You're good, and I see that with some people who start as well, who put in those claims, and it doesn't work. Yeah, and I don't mean claims like cold calling is dead. Okay, that might still work, but yeah, they are meant to provocate. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
well,
that's clear. But
that's
there are
the
some.
algorithm. What I saw once was you were sharing something around your journaling experience, like writing day to day,
Hmm.
and that
Yeah.
makes so much sense to me because, like, how did you take up this habit, and how long has it been going for you? I think that's something everybody who wants to be successful in their career should do, and I do it sometimes. I get interrupted, and when I saw you doing it, it was like it clicked. It makes sense. This guy, the way he writes, it's because he's recording this every day. Like, can you tell about journaling a little?
Yeah, absolutely. And so my at Larry, the CEO is Eddie, one of my best friends, and he always said, "Patrick, you have to start journaling." And I'm like,
Mm.
I tried. I had these black books, physical books,
Moleskine,
where I
yeah,
tried to. Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. A
yeah,
few
yeah,
of these.
yeah.
I
Fancy
started
books.
5 times with. Yeah, I started 5 times with these books. Never made it more than 20 days. So I discovered back then a tool that was very similar to Notion.
Mm.
Workflowy was the
Hmm.
tool, very similar to Notion. You just go in, you start writing no formatting. Like with Word, I hate Word because you're formatting. How do you write it bold and blah blah blah? All this weird. That's annoying for my eyes. So
Mm.
I used Workflowy. I started to write, and then I realized, hey, amazing, because when I do it on the computer, which a lot of people don't think works, I don't know. For many people, it doesn't work, interestingly. For me, it was that game changer because I get up, I start, and then I start working anyway. So I
Mm.
do open my computer at 7
Hmm.
in the morning anyway and
Hmm.
start to, and then I start to write. I write
Hmm.
for half an hour almost. Nowadays, it's quite heavily, quite a lot. So
Yeah.
usually one word page, even more sometimes. And then it clicked and it worked.
So
Because
do you keep
it
it? Do you
was
do
during
it every
COVID, by the
day?
way, every day. I mean,
Well done.
obviously, I have some days that I don't do it. Sometimes over the weekend we go on a
You catch
holiday,
up. Yeah, yeah,
and I don't do it,
yeah.
and then I catch up. Yeah, but I certainly I do it for, let's say, 23, 4, 5 days a month, I'd say. I miss maybe 5 to 7 days a
And
month.
what has been the best thing about journaling? What's the best impact in your life that it had?
Yeah, the best thing is, so you're writing, I had a fight with my wife yesterday, let's imagine. And then I start to write about that fight. And then I also realize the way I write about it. So I can see myself, okay, that's your perspective. Now, what's the other perspective? So while you are writing, you're doing some thinking as well. But Patrick, why actually is that important? Why actually do you want this? Why are you actually, so emotional about this topic? So you think about it a bit, you ask one why or two why questions more, and then you really get to the stuff. And
Yeah,
that's what you have to do with yourself,
love
with
it.
sales, with everything. So that was the most impactful. You don't just write about
Yeah,
how you felt yesterday,
yeah,
but you write how you felt, and then you think about how you felt,
yeah.
and
I
and you
love
know
it.
the
That's
stuff.
basically you're doing self therapy. And I'm saying to my
Yeah,
team, if you can't do the journaling, then like at the end of every week, spend 30 minutes on a Friday writing the highs and lows and the learnings of the week. Because otherwise, like, that's the best gift you can give yourself on that week, because time flies. We do like a million things a second. We forget, but then recognition, all the good things you achieved, what did you really learn, what are you going to avoid doing next week? Like, that's how you build good habits. So
absolutely,
love that.
absolutely.
All right, as we're coming to the end of our show, any closing remarks, Patrick? Any questions I should have asked you and I didn't?
No, 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 no. That was amazing. Okay, very unusual. I didn't prepare for it, but it was a very, yeah, it was a easy flow conversation,
Well,
Alper.
Flola.
So enjoyed it a lot.
in brand
Flola,
in
really,
brand
yeah,
with Flola.
it's flowing.
Everything here is flowing easy breezy. Love that.
It
Well,
is actually flowing. That's
thank you
great.
so
No,
much
I don't
for
have. I think it was good. Well done.
excellent. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode today, and maybe I'll see you in another episode at some point in new journeys as your fathering journey also flourishes, and I'll be following. Everybody, give a follow to Patrick because it will definitely teach you a few things that you didn't know before. And otherwise, see you in the next episode.